Hello, friends, and welcome to the PowHERful Podcast. I'm your host, AJ McCord. In this podcast, we introduce you to powerful women who are changing the game in and outside of their field of play. These are women's stories, women who happen to be doing things that many of us can only dream of, but the lessons and inspiration they share is universal. Welcome, friends, to another episode of the PowHERful Podcast, where we are highlighting some of the most amazing women who are competing for Team USA this summer in Paris. And I could not be more excited for our next guest because this woman is a member of Team USA's sitting volleyball team. She has made her third Paralympic roster, getting ready for her second Paralympics. She is the director and founder of Limitless People Incorporated, which is all about providing volleyball for all and just a joyful human being to be around. So Nicky Nieves, thank you so much for joining us here on the PowHERful Podcast.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you for having me. I was super excited to just chat.
I know, it's going to be so fun. I have so many things that I want to talk with you about, but I want to start with the Paralympics because for you, like I mentioned, third Paralympic roster, but only the second time you're actually going to go to Paris. So you're going to go to the Paralympics. So walk me through what unfolded for you before Tokyo.
Yeah, so, man, COVID happened and it was weird. I came out to Oklahoma City to train as I usually do whenever we have big events. And of course, before the games, I'll come out to Oklahoma City. We train in Edmond at University of Central Oklahoma to train. And then it got postponed. And I remember going home for a little bit and then coming back out, and everything was just super strict with masks and having to get tested every day. And then we had a positive test within, I'll just say like our family, positive test within our volleyball family. And it was right before we were gearing up to leave. So I'll say at this point, maybe it was like 5 or 6 days before we were gearing up to leave. And I remember being nervous, and we still had to send the test every day, and it was coming back negative. And I remember feeling funny on the drive back home because I drive my car to and then back to the state of Florida so I could have transportation.
Right.
And I honestly, like, nervous, yes, but really didn't think anything of it because I'm also asthmatic. So I'm like, oh, like, my asthma's flaring up. It is what it is. Got back home and I was like, well, maybe I should test, but I didn't want to use the test that they gave us that like had to be sent in. I was like, I'll just go and get a rapid. And I think I went to like 3 different CVS's and I couldn't find a rapid. I remember like talking to my teammate on the phone and I was like, I can't find one. And she like went out to go get one too because she was super nervous. And finally, like I don't know, like I feel like it's like that looming like what if, but you're like, no, like it's fine. And man, I remember like things, like my body just felt weird. And I remember like faintly kind of like losing like smell, and I was like, there's no way. And I went and I tested, and with any of the tests, usually they say like, oh, like within 15 to 20 minutes, but when you are positive, it pops quick. Like I swear it's like 5 seconds and like the positive will come up. So I like swab and I like put it in, and literally like 5 to 10 seconds pass and like the little light comes on because it was a battery powered test.
Oh gosh.
And I'm glad I can laugh about it now. I've done a lot of processing. But I was like, no way. And I like went and did another one and it came back and I was mortified. Like I didn't want to tell my teammates. I didn't want to tell my coach just because I felt like I was such a disappointment. Like I did everything that I was supposed to do. My best friend was getting married. I didn't even do her bachelorette and I was her maid of honor. Other fun events that were going on, like I just decided not to do them because I was like, I want to be as safe as I can be. I want to show up for my team. I don't want to get sick. I want to enjoy these games. And even like with sponsorships, like I was with Nike and Citibank, and thankfully I'm still with them. So they still supported me even post Tokyo. I like didn't know where to put my face. Like I didn't know how to say it, like such a shame that came with it. And just kind of like now you have to like go through everything, right? Like the people that are expecting you to be there, friends and family. So I waited. 2 days went by and we're like all in the group chat, like, yay, another negative. We're about to leave. And I'm just like, woohoo, like not saying anything. And then finally I was like, well, I mean, we're about to leave like tomorrow. Like I can't, I can't hide it anymore. So I remember think it was calling my coach. I called him first, and I remember like sobbing, and I can't even, the only things that I remember telling him was like, I'm so sorry. And he was super like sad and disappointed, but I just felt so bad because I felt like I let him down. Um, I honestly, like, I just feel like it's repressed. Like, I don't remember how I told the team. I do remember having to like go back and forth with our NGB about like releasing like a statement because it hadn't even been like 24 hours yet.
Right.
That they were like, oh, hey, by the way, we're going to put something out that's saying that so-and-so is replacing you or something of the sort that would indicate that I got COVID. And I was like, absolutely not. Like, that's not fair. I haven't even told like my family yet. The only people that knew at this point was just my mom and my dad. So like going back and forth with that. And then like time is like so wild. So like emailing my coaches, like, this is about to happen. Like, can you please tell them to stop or like just to wait? And eventually they did give me a little more time, thankfully, with my coaches advocating for me as well. But they changed it, and the way that they worded it didn't necessarily imply that I was the one that was sick. It was just like, oh, an alternate or something of the sort was getting taken. And from there, then I remember I had like posted a video, which is funny. I was just looking for it the other day. I was like, I can't find it. I'm like, I probably deleted it because I was like, okay,
expressed it for you.
gone.
Yeah, exactly. Instagram's like, no, I got you, girl. You don't need to do it again.
Yeah, I remember like making a video that was just like, I'm not going, like, I'm not going to be there. And even before making that video, I think we already had like played like our first game or something like that. So like the phone call started coming and they were like, we don't see you on the court. Like, we don't see you on the bench. Like, what's going on? Where are you? Like all the texts and stuff. So I like I posted that message and it was just like, hey, like, I'm not going. Like, it's really unfortunate. And, man, it was a really hard time just because you feel like you let so many people down. It was a longer quad instead of 4 years. Now it was 5 years. Having to see my team, or getting to see clips because till this day I've processed, but I haven't processed enough courage to watch our matches yet. Having them come back with another gold medal and knowing that I wasn't there. And then just like some of the conversations that I had with some of my teammates that were over there, it just was really a really hard time, like redefining your worth, redefining your role, which sucks to say because, I'm more than an athlete. But in a situation like that, where like, that's just like your life and you're training so hard for it, your identity gets wrapped up in it. So it's just like, am I worth these brand deals? Am I worth like people wanting to do work with me or wanting to sponsor me? And I don't know how to have these conversations. So mental health was really a big thing. And oddly enough, like I'm finishing my master's in clinical mental health right now to be a therapist. But even in those moments, like I'm learning how to really create the boundary and like reach out to the people that were closest to me that like, hey, I'm not doing well. On like the night of like our gold medal match, like one of my friends Jenny was like, hey, come out with us and like just kept me on. I was like, I want to go home. And she's like, well, we're going to go here now. Like, just come. So just like thankful for like friends that I have like that. And I don't know. I feel like it gave me a lot of character development, even though that situation sucked. And just taught me how to be resilient, taught me how to like really define my needs and express my needs and know when I'm not okay. And although I am a super cheery person and I like to be that loud, like, let's go, like get everybody going, I need to make sure that I'm okay before I can pump everybody else up. So
that is the hardest lesson. That is the hardest lesson, especially for assuming you have a decent amount of extrovert in you.
I think I'm like pretty balanced. Like it's weird. Like when I'm like good to go, I'm like, let's go. We're rocking. I'm screaming, I'm cheering. And then I'm like, all right, I need to like go take like a long walk by myself.
Yeah. And I think
recharge.
Yes. Cause I think I have that same sort of like, I get energized around people for sure. And also have gotten really good at like being okay being by myself too. But I think you touched on so many things and like the lessons. We really like dove right in here. This was like a podcast that started from the very beginning, but which I'm obsessed with. But I think that one of the things you touched on like, I cannot wait to get into who you are as a volleyball player, but we dove right in with who you are as a human being and some of the lessons that you've learned because of your sport. I think that's so powerful to talk about the mental health side of not just because it was an injury in the sense that it, kept you from playing, but then there was also that time, there was so much shame, right? About like, I must have done something wrong in order to get this. And so I remember all the time being so scared in that time, not just of getting COVID and the implications of it, but the shame of, if I can't show up for work, or if I can't, meet with my family for the holidays who I haven't seen in 2 years at this point, or whatever it is, right? It's like, that shame is something that I think probably us as a society, us as a generation, like, are certainly still processing.
For sure. Just knowing that you don't know how anybody else is going to like take it, right? Like, one of my teammates got COVID and she was completely fine, no symptoms at all. And then somebody else could literally fall on their deathbed. So it's like, not only am I affecting my team's ability to show up and perform because I'm like a starter that gets on the court that's expected to like deliver. Now, who am I around? How am I isolating? Because I was at home and there was a bunch of us. It was like me, my mom, my dad, my oldest niece, and then my grandmother and my grandfather. And my grandfather's like, was what, 92 at the time. And my grandma was what, like 89, 88, 89. So it's just like all of the stressors and then just like a balance. Like, now, like, my parents don't like seeing me upset and I'm like their daughter, and they're just like, okay, like, let's just get out of the funk, and like trying not to make them feel bad, but like, hey, like, you guys have to understand, like, I am not okay. Like, I'm really sad right now. I'm grieving, and like, but I'm also like isolated. So it just, man, it was like literally just like a whole world within itself, and like having to like juggle everything.
Yeah.
And then come out at the end of it like, okay, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So let's talk about sort of the quote unquote end of it, and like making this third Paralympic roster and locking in your spot for Paris. How much would you say that missing the Tokyo Paralympics motivated you in these last 3 years to be as strong as you could be, as prepared as you could be, to make this third Paralympic roster?
Yeah. I think if anything, it has pushed me more to go after the possibility of being the absolute best that I could be. And it's weird that I say that because I always compare myself to like the last event that's happened. Let me explain it. So like every quad, there's like a world championship. There's a zonals. There's like one major tournament every year in that quad. So for me, I compare myself to the last quad and how I performed. So I'm like, what did my body look like? How was I eating? How was I hitting? How was I blocking? Like whatever the case may be, to try and beat that past version. So it feels weird to say like, oh, this pushed me to be the absolute best, because there was like no measuring in Tokyo because I wasn't able to perform. But I knew that I felt like I was at my best and I was at my peak. So now it's almost kind of like doubling down. And I came out stronger mentally because I dealt with like the death of an event.
Yeah.
Which is like the best way to like describe it. Like it's something that you're training so hard for, you're preparing, and then it just got like snatched from me.
Yeah.
So now I'm just like, oh, I'm being like the best version that I can be. And I know what I was going to potentially look like going into Tokyo. And now I'm like, oh, like for sure, like I'm doubling down and I'm going in and I'm taking everything that like belongs to me. Like it's literally redemption. Like, sorry. And it's
sorry, not sorry.
Redemption against. Yeah, but it's so weird because it's literally redemption for myself. Like, it's not even like, oh, I'm going in to go against like China again. Like,
yeah.
No, like I'm literally like going in like redemption, like at the games. Like I'm taking everything that like was owed to me.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's so interesting, because I think so much of the time as athletes, we get so motivated by something, right? It takes something to like really get that competitive flame going. And so for you, it's like missing that has made you be like, all right, Paralympics, you are not ready for the wrath upon which I will ensue on you in Paris, because it's been too long since I've had my chance here.
Literally, like just everything, all like the pent up energy and excitement. And man, like everything, like what you've been eating, how you've been training, like being with your teammates, just everything is just doubled now.
Oh my gosh. Well, that has me so hyped to watch you compete in Paris. I want you to give us a little bit of insight. So we like picked up your story at the most recent chapter, but let's start at the beginning. Let's start at the beginning chapters. Because I would love for people to get to know how this fiery, passionate, amazing woman came to be. And your story is very unique. You were, I guess, talk me through how you found the Paralympic movement, how you sort of worked through a childhood where you were incredibly athletic, 3 different sports in high school, I do believe, while not having a left arm below the wrist, right? And so walk me through just what defined Nicky in your childhood that you found a haven in sports.
Yeah, I've just really loved sports my whole life, in a sense, like to play it. Like if people were like, oh, let's go watch it, I'm like, meh. But like if I could go play it, that's fine. And I, at that time, like growing up, really felt like I found community and I found like my friends and something that we were all passionate about. So I played volleyball, I ran track, I was a cheerleader. And at the end of it all, I was like, okay, like when I'm done, I still want to play volleyball outside of high school. So I did. I went to Queens College, and I don't even want to say notoriety, but like the buzz that came from it, like, oh my gosh, like Queens College has a girl that's playing volleyball without a hand. At first I was like, oh yeah, I guess like you can do interviews and stuff. And then after a while I was like, this is so stupid, because I don't want people to look at me and say like, oh, she's so inspired because she's doing something without a hand. Like, be inspired because I'm a great player, or I exceeded like that position's like skill. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So after a while, I was just like, I don't want this. I remember telling our AD at the time, I was like, I don't want to do any more interviews. I don't want to talk to anybody else. Like, I just want to play volleyball. And finally, I want to say maybe like at the end of the season, he was like, hey, like somebody reached out and, you know, they wanted to know like if you're interested in sitting volleyball. They said, hey, like we see you have a player without a hand. We have sitting volleyball. We want her to come and try it. And I was like, oh, okay, that sounds cool. Like, I'm not doing that. And literally, and like as ignorant as it is, because like my whole life growing up, my parents were like, if you want to do something, okay, we'll figure out a way and get it done. They didn't know about parasport or adaptive sport. It was almost kind of like I was just a leprechaun. Like I'm the only one and I'm existing and I'm trying to figure out a way to make it work within this world, being the only one, knowing that you're not the only one, but I don't see anybody else. I don't have any other limb different friends. So for me, in my mind, I was like, I do not want to play a sport that's adaptive, because I don't want people looking at me like taking pity, like I couldn't hack it, because for so long I was just fighting to be seen as an athlete, like a regular athlete, just like everybody else. I don't want to be seen as like the pity or like the inspiration. So I definitely don't want to go sit on the floor and play volleyball. I don't want to do that. So they kept asking and I was like, oh, maybe I'll think about it. And my parents, especially my dad, he was like, hey, just go try it. They're paying for everything. If you don't like it, you just leave it. Like nobody's forcing you. So I'm like, okay, I guess. So I remember like going out to my first camp. It was at Fort Sam Houston in San Antonio. And if I remember correctly, I'm pretty sure I was the only girl, and it was all military men. And anybody that knows military men know they talk smack. Like they literally will talk smack. And I remember,
I think you just put men on the court and they talk smack. Like I don't even know if it's just military, but like my local gym, there's a whole lot of smack talking going on.
Literally. And like throw in the fact that like I wasn't a kid. I was already like, what, 21, 22. So they're like, oh, game on. Like, we don't have to be nice. Like, you're in your 20s. Like, you're an adult. Yeah. So we like go and they're like popping off their legs and like popping off their arms and just like getting on the court. And I'm just like, my flabber was gasted. I was like, I don't understand how these people just pop off their limbs and they don't care. And they just hop on the court like, and we're just like playing and they're like, she can't even pass. She can't, like just literally just talking smack. And of course it's the same, but it's different.
Sure.
Because now my movement is different. I'm having to learn how to read quicker and move before I touch a ball. I don't have the use of like jumping or like just getting my legs to take me somewhere. And now it doesn't matter if I can jump really high because we can't jump. So the 6'3" person in front of me has a better chance of blocking me. Like everything just got a lot harder and the court's way smaller. It's 11 by 6 meters. So I'm getting hit in the face a lot because I don't have that quick of a reaction time yet because I'm not playing city volleyball. So it was really difficult. And after like by the end, I think it was like almost like the last day, I remember like hanging out with one of the guys and he was just like telling me his story about being in Iraq, and he had gotten blown up by an IED and like was the only survivor, and like just telling me like all of these stories, and I just like start crying. And he's like, what is, like literally like, what is wrong with you? Like, and in my head, I'm like, first of all, I've never been around adaptive people. Yeah. Like I've never been around like people that are missing parts like me. You're telling me this super sob story. Like that's so sad. And you don't even care. Like you just popped off your leg and I'm over here like, I don't want anybody to look at my hands and like feel sorry for me. And sometimes I hide it. Like if I'm being honest, like I don't want the extra eyes or people staring at me. So I hide it. And you're just fine. Like what? So immediately I'm like, I feel so stupid. And I'm just like crying. And he's like, what's wrong? And I was like, well, everybody's just so confident. And I've been like hiding my hand this whole time. And blah. Like it was just, it was a mess. So literally from that camp, I was like, well, maybe. And they were like, well, come and try another one. And I was like, okay. And I don't want to say like I was like hooked completely, but one aspect that did hook me was I was in a space of other people that were genuinely like me.
Yeah.
They were missing limbs. They were trying to figure out things in life just like I was. A lot of them, once I met the women, a lot of them had played college sports. Some of them had played D1. Some of them didn't meet adaptive sports until their collegiate career, just like I did. And I finally felt like I had a connection. Like I could like talk and like express myself and like, hey, how did you do this? And little by little, I was like, wow, there's like so much more opportunity for me to just grow as an athlete sitting volleyball wise rather than traditionally, because now I'm forced to have to like read the court more. And now I'm forced to have to like make, like just be an in-tune athlete. Cause if I'm honest, when I'm standing, I'm just a dumb jock. I'm like, nobody can out jump me. And I'm like trying to like out jump everybody and just like hitting the ball and I don't care. And I'm like blocking and that's it. And then now I'm like, okay, if you just wail at it, that girl's going to block you straight down and you're going to look stupid. Like you literally have to like place your stuff and be smart and reach high and like move quick. So I don't know, like it literally just kind of captivated me and it made me the confident person that I am today because I saw other women do it. I saw Kendra Lancaster that played on my team that was missing her hand, that she was like just whatever. Mind you, she wore a prosthetic and I also was like anti-prosthetic. Now I feel a little bit better about it, but like starting, I was like, I don't want a prosthetic. I don't want that. People are going to stare at me more. And like seeing her with her prosthetic and she just like didn't care. And then I'm seeing like Michelle Schiffler at the time and she had like, her arm was even shorter and she like was just so, like her personality was just like vibrant and just very like joyous and like, like all the time. And like when she's talking, she's like using her hands and we're like out and she's like this. And I'm just like, like again, like gasping, like, oh my gosh, like these women don't care.
Yeah.
So for me, it just really like pushed me out. And it was just like, be proud of who you are and be the person that you needed to see. Cause now it's opening doors for me to like go and coach at places like Nubability where I'm coaching other limb different kids. And I'm like, man, like had I had this when I was young, like I would have been at this place way earlier than like reaching it in my 20s.
So that's what I was going to ask you is listening to your story, right? You are one of the Paralympians who was born with their limb difference, right? Like you were born without a left hand. And so I can imagine when you're the only one growing up like that, of course you want to fit in. That's like every teenager who's ever existed, right? Like you just want to fit in. And a lot of times there's ways to do that, right? Like you can change your hair, you can wear the makeup, but you had a limb difference that was much harder to sort of to fit in, quote unquote, right? And so I can imagine that when you were around that group of people, it was like that 12-year-old girl felt some freedom for the first time of like, no, this actually, I feel free to be entirely myself. And of course, I'm sure you had community and great, your parents sound amazing, but there's something to say about being met exactly as you are with people who look like you, literally, physically have been through what you've been through. It's like why community is so freeing because it's your people, and that's just like all there is to it.
Yeah, it literally allowed me to exist authentically. And not to say that I didn't exist in other spaces authentically, but there's just a difference being able to like express yourself and not sugarcoat things because you don't know how people are going to take it. And everybody's entitled to their feelings and their opinions, but it's always a little scary being that vulnerable when someone is unaware or they don't know about your situation or like they're just ignorant to it because they don't know yet, you know?
Right. Yeah.
So it was just really nice. And it is really nice to just be able to just exist and not have to worry about small little nuances because they're going through it or have gone through it with me.
Yeah. So, okay. So take me from the volleyball player who like was taking the trash talk and realized at 21, like, oh shoot, I may be really good at sports. I'm not good at this one to now making your third Paralympic roster. Like, what did you embrace to become this amazing sitting volleyball player that you are?
Yeah. Well, the first thing was just not being ashamed to say that I play sitting volleyball because now I was like, oh, I accept it, but I don't know how other people are. One of the first people I told was my childhood best friend. So I grew up in New York. We moved to Florida and then I went back to Queens and I went to Queens College because I'm from Queens. And a lot of the people that were there were the same people that I went to school with. So a lot of them I'm like bumping into and like talking to, which is kind of cool. And one of them, the very first people that I told, her name was Inez Thompson. She was like my kindergarten through like 5th grade best friend. And I was like, Inez, it's just so crazy because I'm like playing sitting and I don't know. Like, and she was like, girl, like, who cares? Like, that's all, like, like, she was just like, it is what it is. Like, go do it. Oh my God, Team USA. And at that time, it wasn't even as big yet. And this was like 2011. So like when you compare like 2012 games to like what it is now, like it's grown exponentially. So even telling her, I was like scared and I was like, well, people are going to judge me. They're going to think I'm less than. She's like, who cares? Like, just go do it. So I'm like, okay. And even along like the beginning stages, like when I would tell some people, like she helped a lot because I was like, okay, I'm not going to care. But like some people would be like, oh yeah, like, okay, like that's great. Or like, why would you stop playing at Queens to like go play sitting? Like it just, they didn't understand it. Or like traveling, like, oh, I just downloaded WhatsApp because I made friends in Brazil and like we're texting, and they'd be like, oh yeah, friends in Brazil. Like, yeah. And I'm like, yeah, because we have like a tournament or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then like, it literally just took like not caring. Like you just can't care what people are going to say. And a lot of that also came from like wanting to be on the court. So like, I'm either going to be like shameful and like not show up when I need to show up, or just not care and like do the extra work. And I decided to like do the extra work. So I like moved to Oklahoma City for I don't remember if it was like 2 or 2.5 years to train. And then just decided, okay, if I'm leaving, like every time we have a bigger tournament, I have to make sure that I'm like coming back and training for extended periods of time. And it's taken a lot of work to be where I'm at currently, to become a starter. It's taken a lot of work. And to be honest, like, although I feel like I play really well, it's still something that has to be earned, you know? Like I can't just expect to start on the court. I have to work for it and prove myself every single time, even years later. So I don't know. It's just deciding that I wanted to do that. I wanted to do the work. I wanted to show up and be the best that I could possibly be, and putting my foot forward to do so.
Yeah. So other than the probably obvious difference of standing versus sitting, what is the biggest thing that you had to adapt about your game to be a great sitting volleyball player?
There are still things that are adapting, if I'm quite honest.
Fair.
Because I like, sometimes I'm like, oh, I do this when I'm standing up, but I can't necessarily do this when I'm standing down when I'm sitting down.
We got it. Standing down, it works.
Yeah, because it doesn't necessarily like translate, or like,
yeah.
Even now, mind you, I'm a middle. Everybody knows that middle hitters and blockers do not play defense. We go in the back row. When we serve, defend for your life so you can stay in. So when you have to get out, it's not because of your own mistake, you know? But standing on my feet, I felt so much more confident because I can run, I can go and get a ball, and I have so much more space to pass a ball. I am never taking a ball above my head or trying to hand pass it or none of that. Whereas in sitting, there's no other option. Or like when balls come like midway and some people are just taking it quick, I'm like, 10 years later, I'm still trying to figure out how to do this. Like, even in practice now, I'm like, I don't know where to put my hands. Like, literally. So that, or like blocking a ball. My serve has been really weird.
Okay.
Whereas like in stand, I still can't find the correlation or like the difference in why I'll like struggle sitting and then standing, I'm just like pop the ball and serve it over. And then when I'm sitting down, I'm like, I don't know if it's like too much torque or like sometimes I'm like Thor and I like wail the ball or like sometimes like it's so weird. Or like there's been times where like I hit my teammate in the back of the head and I was like so embarrassed. Like literally it was so embarrassing. I got up and I bowed and I walked off. I was like, sorry, and like left. So like it's literally like things like that where I'm just like, oh, like this, like it's the same but it's different.
You know, I think we're going to reframe that story of hitting the serve like Thor, and that just means that your nickname going into Paris is Nicky the Hammer Nieves. And the hammer just means that you're going to put it down, not on the serve, not in the back of your teammate's head, but everywhere else.
The court,
you're going to put the hammer down.
Literally. I'm just I feel like it's just weird. Like there's no in between. Like I feel like I barely touched it and it flies, or I'm like putting all my might in and it's like a wet noodle. Like I'm just like, okay.
Girl, anybody who's done sports, right? Like we all get it. There's those times, like I was a gymnast and I would swear to you that I did this skill the exact same way, and yet this time I landed on my head and the last time I landed on my feet. So like explícame that. Like you can't. It just sometimes doesn't make sense. So that is a universal experience. Okay, so for those who are just getting into the sport of sitting volleyball, like you mentioned, it has grown so much in the last decade plus, which is amazing. We love to see it. So give us some context of the history of Team USA sitting volleyball and what you guys are the legacy that you are creating as a Paralympic team.
Yeah. Wow. So we've always been super competitive. Thankfully, because I'm a believer, sorry. So I will say thank you, Jesus. We've always made it to the podium. And I want to say that Rio was probably the turning point for us because it's like when we started to lock in together as a team, we started to work with a sports psychiatrist. We started to be more vulnerable, open and honest with each other and trust each other that we're showing up, that we're doing the work even when we don't see each other and we're taking care of ourselves. And as our team continues to evolve and some people retire and some people, new people come in, the biggest thing that we've been working on is just a culture of taking care of yourself and being honest and really taking recovery seriously and advocating for yourself. Because nobody is going to advocate for you the way that you do. And although we'll support each other, kind of giving that push to like speak up for yourself, so express your needs. What do you need? What's not working for you? What's working for you? And also with that, advocating for our sport and advocating for our program and what can we do to make it better? How can we get better? What do we need as a whole? So just really, I don't know, the culture and the program has shifted a lot in a sense that it's on the up and up on the positive side. So yes, we are performers and we deliver and we execute and we compete. But like with that comes eating well with our dietitian and getting that recovery and making those appointments and taking care of our bodies and advocating when we just can't do something. Like we are really notorious for playing like through injury. It's just something that's been like normal. So not normalizing that, like denormalizing that, like probably need to sit this one out or like this practice out and take care of myself and make an extra doctor's appointment, whatever the case may be, to make sure that I can show up 100% for the team.
One of the things that I think is so interesting about what you just said and something that is so important to highlight when we're talking about a lot of Olympic sports and certainly almost all of the Paralympic sports is that this cannot be a full-time job for you because you have to do other things in order to sustain a life that then creates an opportunity for you to go train and for you to go compete and all these things. And I know you have some amazing sponsors alongside of you.
Yeah.
But that is such a reality for, like I said, a lot of Olympians and certainly a majority of Paralympians, that is a big burden to carry in addition to being the best in the world, right? Because like everybody wants to, like, Team USA, nobody's more patriotic, right? Than as soon as the Olympics come around, all of a sudden the countries, everything that's divided us is gone now because we're all rooting for Team USA.
Yeah.
But you guys have to go through so much to be ready to carry the burden of that flag with you.
Yeah. It's kind of wild to think about because two things can exist at one time, but these two things are like extremely contradicting because you need to work in order to provide for yourself, in order to like get the training, to get the resources. But in that working, you're also taking away from your ability to train and to show up and to do what you need to do. Same goes with securing sponsorship dollars and like putting yourself out there, you know, putting the work out there so people could see you, and then trusting, you know, agents and publicists and marketers to actually do the right thing. And man, it's just, I just feel like it's so opposite. Like, yeah, two things can exist at one time, but like, it's super difficult. Like, teammates are not taking any vacation to save their vacation time to be able to go to the Paralympic Games, or kind of cutting things up or like working extra to make up for extra time so they can go to that tournament, or so they could have one extra day. Because really, like, yes, although the games are fun, they're still exhausting. Like, you're competing, and once you're done, it's just like a kind of like an energy dump, like,
1,000,000%.
you know, the post-game blues. And really, like, you're just expected to show up the next day.
Yeah.
So it's like working hard to like get those extra hours so you don't have to show up the next day. So
jeez. So with that, that's obviously like a big purpose behind the PowHERful Podcast, is we want to tell these stories so that we can make sure that people know, hey, I fell in love with Nicky when I heard her on the podcast. I rooted her on in Paris. What is something that people can do tangibly to support Team USA sitting volleyball, to support you year in, year out? Because we all know the games only come around every 4 years, and y'all got to do a lot of things in those 3.5 years in between to be ready to go again.
Yeah, my biggest thing would be just support on the socials. Follow our team page, USA Women's Sitting Team. Follow individual pages like my page. Watch us on the channels if you can. I know NBC is going to be putting some stuff out there. I know Peacock is streaming. Watch all the channels, and don't only just watch volleyball. Like, try and watch all of the sports, because the more eyes that we get, the more value that, you know, the streaming gives to us. Like, okay, well, they had so many hours this time, let's up it. They had so many hours, they have so many people, let's increase it. And through that increase comes everything else, right? Like, other companies saying like, oh wow, like they're getting a lot of eyeballs. Maybe I do want to sponsor more athletes. Maybe I do want to give more athletes jobs. I know that I can't remember them at the top of my head right now, but there's two. I know LA28 does it. It's a fellowship program for athletes. And there's another company that does, I want to say Visa. So there might be three, but these are companies that put values in athletes. So where they're like offering jobs that are giving you the ability to go and train if you need to go and train, or go and compete, while also offering you a full-time position and letting you see the different roles that you might serve best in. And then also offering you a full-time after that like fellowship is done. So some of them might last 6 months, some of them might last a year, but definitely more support, more eyeballs, more sharing whenever you see it. Post, comment, repost,
get
whatever
that
you can do.
engagement up. Let's go.
Literally, just get the engagement up. Share with your friends. Put it in spaces if you have the ability to put it in spaces. I always tell people, pay it forward. If you're a PE teacher, if you're a teacher, if you are a sped teacher, like, hey, let's play an adaptive sport today. Let's try sitting volleyball. We have chairs available. Let's try wheelchair basketball, whatever the case may be, to help normalize it, to help spread the Paralympic movement, and to just get more engagement, both on socials, on phones, whatever, laptops, but in real life as well.
I love that. And one of the things that you have done is really take that real life approach by starting Limitless. So can you tell us a little bit about your foundation?
Yeah, for sure. It is like my little baby. So it's not, what I love about it is that it's not huge because it's meant to hit from the heart. What I want to do is spread more volleyball awareness, more volleyball, both traditional and sitting, to everyone, regardless of their financial ability, regardless of where they're geographically located, whether it be a camp, a clinic. We've done community outreach where we're just like feeding a community maybe. I just did I teamed up with the Department of Recreation in Puerto Rico for a town called Ucares. Humacao, for the town of Humacao. And we just did volleyball, and they did some games too. So literally just spreading volleyball, teaching the skills if they need to be taught the skills, or giving you maybe some extra playing time, some extra practice time. I know for me, my parents, fortunately, I'm the last kid. So my parents invested a lot of money for club volleyball. And I joke and I'm like, oh, it all paid off, right? Like all the money, all the time and investment paid off. And I know that there are so many barriers, especially with volleyball. It's almost kind of like a country club sport at this point with all the money that you need to put in. What would another kid become if they only had 10% of the opportunity that I had, or even 5%, could they get a little bit further? Could they get more eyes on them? Could they better a skill? And maybe now that team wants to pick them up. So really just spreading opportunity in any way that I can.
I love it. Well, I am so grateful for just the chance to get to talk with you and learn a little bit more about your story and Limitless, and just like I said, it's so apparent because I've been following you on social for a while, and it's so obvious from both your socials and also from this interview that you are authentically joyful, which I think is just a very big difference than just happy, right? Because I think oftentimes the highlight reels seem happy, but it's very clear that you've done the work to be authentically joyful, regardless of circumstance or obstacles or whatever. And so I'm so excited that the PowHERful Podcast fam is going to get the chance to know you a little bit better as well. Too. So now we're going to move into our segment called Something to Sip On. It's brought to you by the Sports Bra, which is the very first women's sports bar in the entire world. And so the week that we have this interview coming out, they are going to have a featured mocktail called the Nicky. What is in the Nicky?
Oh man, I'm super simple, but not. So I like sparkling water.
Okay.
My favorite is any strawberry sparkling water, and true sparkling water, not the ones that are oh, it's sparkling water and it has some juice added. That's so nasty. Well, it's not. Let me take that back. It's not nasty, but
it's not a mocktail. Yeah. It's not giving mocktail. So sparkling
water, I don't like the ones that have juice in it. I just like the ones that have regular, just sparkling water with the taste. I don't know how they get the taste. I just know that it's not juice and I'm with it. So sparkling water, I like strawberry, and then I like tart cherry. Because tart cherry helps with recovery, relaxation. So I like to add a little shot of tart cherry into that. Ooh. And then sometimes, if it's NSF certified, you can add a little magnesium into that to help with the sleep, more of the relaxation. That's my jam. And then I'm super fancy. I'll put it in a little champagne glass, or one of my little fancy Target glasses, because it just makes me feel better about myself.
Valid.
I'm living in this mansion and I just had my mocktail. My bartender just made it up for me. And now after a long day of training, I could just get in my robe and sit in bed and read.
Okay. I love it. I love it. Okay. So that's what we'll be sipping on at the Sports Bra the week that the Nicky comes out. And now we're going to move into our final segment. It's called the Powered Up segment. And it is where we go rapid fire questions. And I'm terrible at rapid fire, it turns out, because I always love the story behind the question. So I'm going to try and stick to my, game plan. Okay. So first one, coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Okay. That's easy. Favorite ice cream flavor?
Oh my gosh, I was just thinking about this. Cold Stone, and it's not a flavor. I like cake batter with yellow cake mix and cookie dough mixed in.
Ooh, okay. Ooh, I like that.
Yeah.
Go-to meal after playing sitting volleyball?
It's probably going to be so weird. I really like eggs. So,
okay.
So if I'm home, probably scrambled eggs and toast. Literally, I could eat it in the morning and at night. It doesn't matter. I just
breakfast
really like
all
eggs.
day, every day.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Okay. Great. Early to bed or early to rise? Are you a night owl or an early bird?
Oh my gosh. I feel like, oh man, no, early to rise, and not even on purpose. It's because I have to.
Fair. Very valid.
Yeah.
What is a favorite place your sport has taken you?
Ooh, Japan.
Ooh, what city?
Yeah, Tokyo.
Oh, very cool. Awesome. If you were not a Paralympian and sitting volleyball, what sport would you want to compete in either the Paralympics or the Olympics in?
Oh. Man, I'm like so biased because it'd just be volleyball again, it'd be beach.
She said, actually, I'm really good in my zone. Keep me here.
Literally, I've tried other sports, like besides running, but I'm just like, oh, I don't want to do that like competitively. I just want to do it for fun. Like I'm a runner girly now. Like I'm training for a half. Like I just want to do it for fun. Yeah, like I don't want to do it like, that's just so much stress. Like just give me like a ball and let me just go play volleyball.
Beach volleyball. They have very beautiful venues. Okay, what is your favorite dessert?
My favorite dessert. Oh man, I don't think I have a favorite because I love it all.
Okay,
I'm such a sweets girl. Like I love pastries. I love. There's a look. I'm like, no, I'm thinking about it. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Sorry, I'm making you hungry. It's around dinner time that we're recording this.
There's a pastry and it's guava and cheese. So it's like the guava filling and then like the cheese, and it has like that flaky like crust, and like some people will like put the like little wash over it with the sugar.
That sounds great.
And then Publix, there's a very popular supermarket chain in the southeastern hemisphere. It's called Publix, and if you want the freshest pastries, go to Publix. And their guava and cheese,
and immaculate. I'll tell you, the first time somebody told me about Publix, because I'm from San Diego, so like never heard of it, right? Didn't spend a lot of time in Florida, like ever. Then covered the Super Bowl in Tampa, and somebody was like, no, Publix, you gotta go there. We're gonna get our stuff for the beach and blah, blah, blah. And I was like...
Yes. Oh, that's a true Floridian. Go to Publix before the beach.
Yeah. I was like, we're not going to a grocery store. Like, let's go pick up food somewhere. And they're like, no, we're going to Publix. And I was like, this stuff was good. Like, it was very good.
Everything's good. Their produce is good. Their fruits are top tier. Their bakery, like... everything.
Yeah, it's like the South/Florida's like secret hidden thing.
Secret hidden gem.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, and then last part for this one is what is the best piece of advice you've ever gotten?
Man, the one that's been like sticking in my head recently, because I can't even say best piece because so many people have like poured life into my life. The best one is probably from my old teammate / friend. Her name is Carrie Miller Ortiz. And I remember we were at a tournament one time and they were like giving out like best hitter awards and all this other stuff. And I don't know what we were talking about or if we were even like talking, but she like turned to me and she's like, you don't think you can win one of those awards? And like, it just never had even dawned on me. I was just like, oh, like I'm on the team. I'm doing the best that I can, whatever. And she was like, you don't think you could win one of those awards? Like you absolutely can. And just literally like, flicked a switch in my head. Like, oh, I absolutely can. Like, it doesn't have to be like the same people. Now, mind you, I'm still fighting for one of those awards. And it's a little hard when you only play 3 rotations on the court. But it's literally like kept the fire under me going.
Oh, I love that. Okay. And then this is the PowHERful Podcast. So I want to know, what does powerful mean to you?
Man, powerful to me means living authentically and free of any perception that people want you to live in. It just means to be you, to exist, to do what you need to do, to be happy, to have those healthy boundaries, to get the help that you need. Just, it's powerful to be you. So be you, exist in who you are.
When do you feel the most powerful?
Man, I feel the most powerful when I am helping clients at my internship. Because I feel like I've been learning so much and I'm able to help them in their journey. So when they come back and like they like tell me success or they're like, trust me with something that's super intimate. It lets me know that I'm doing my job and I'm trusted to be along with them on their journey. So I just feel like super powerful and like strong. And I'm like, we can get through anything together.
Look, I absolutely believe it. I'm so grateful that you took the time to do this podcast. I know you're so busy getting ready to compete in Paris, and I cannot wait to root you on in Paris and beyond. So thank you, Nikki, for being on the PowHERful Podcast.
Thank you.
All right, we'll see you all next week. Thanks for joining us. This is a reminder to check us out every Tuesday, all summer long, everywhere you get your podcasts. And if you really enjoy this and don't want to miss an episode, be sure to hit that subscribe button.